I had such a big response about my previous video on men pulling away that I had to go deeper. This is the video if you want to know what to do when a man is ignoring you. I'm going to go through 3 specific situations because it's not a cookie cutter solution. First, I'm going to walk through if this is a guy that you're not in a committed relationship with, but maybe you've been flirting, going back and forth, and then all of a sudden he starts just dropping out. What do you do at that point? Or what if you have started dating? Maybe you went on a date or 2, or maybe you've hooked up, maybe even you've been dating for a few months, but you're still in that initial stages of dating. If he starts pulling away at that point and ignoring you, what do you do then? Or the third thing is if you're in a relationship, if you're already in a committed relationship and all of a sudden you find that your partner is beginning to pull away, ignore you, not give you what you need, how do you handle that? So I'm going to walk you through each one of these things. My name is Jason Silver. I am the dating coach for ambitious women. This channel, Attract Great Guys, is where I deliver every week different strategies to teach you more about men, how to get into a great, lifelong, committed, loving relationship, how to sustain that, and really how to interact with men in the modern day dating world. And let's jump into the first scenario, which is if you haven't started dating yet. Maybe there's just been some light flirtation, maybe you've spoken a couple of times over the phone or in person, whatever it is, there's definitely interest, but you haven't gotten to that committed stage yet. How do you deal with it if things seem to be going well and escalating and then all of a sudden, poof, the guy just disappears or doesn't seem interested any longer? Well, it's really counterintuitive because at this point, you're thinking, well, what did I do and what can I do? Like, how do I fix this? And that mindset is actually the opposite of what is going to help you and serve you the best at this point, which is not to try to get him back, not to try to attract him. Quite frankly, think about the highest value women in the world, someone that you really look up to and respect. How would she respond if a man started ignoring her? She would probably go about her day and not spend or waste time on someone who's not really investing in her. I mean, this should be a turnoff. If a guy that you're just starting to talk to isn't interested in continuing the conversation, why are you then going to go and try to attract this guy? You might say, Jason, you don't really understand my situation. He's a great guy. He's just really busy, or this reason or that reason or excuse. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. And your situation might be unique, but the principle here remains the same, which is that someone is not pursuing you. Someone's not giving you what you deserve in a relationship, and you are trying to figure out how to attract this person. Therefore, you're putting them on a pedestal, that you're somehow valuing them more than you value yourself at that point, because it shouldn't be attractive to you and make you want to pursue a man when he's not pursuing you. So if you can't pursue him, if you can't try to get him attracted to you, what do you actually do? I created the MEN method. You like that acronym? Basically, it means with this framework or strategy, you can become more attractive to him, even though that's not what we're going for. It'll happen naturally. And you, most importantly, will put yourself in the best position to meet a quality guy, whether it's this guy or someone else. And what you're going to do is the MAN method is magnificent mood, which I'll explain in a moment, envision your ideal match, and network. So I'll walk you through what each one of those means really quickly. Magnificent mood is about being in a space in your life where you are grateful, appreciative, and living a glorious life without the man. That's so key because that is going to be the #1 thing that attracts a great quality man to you. The fact that if there's 2 trains and one train is going to this really decrepit, sad, gloomy town and another is going to Glory Town, just this beautiful, sunny, bright place that they're excited to be at, which train would you want to hop on? It's obvious that if you are traveling in a great, loving direction in your own life without the man, you are going to be that much more attractive. So if you're feeling down, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling rejected, focus on the esteemable actions that you can take today to start feeling better about yourself and your situation. Maybe it's making a gratitude list. Maybe it's cleaning your bedroom. Maybe it's doing something that you've been putting off for a while. Maybe it's eating healthier and exercising, calling a friend or a family member. Whatever those things are, taking those esteemable actions are going to immediately reshift your situation, your self-pity, your sadness that you might be feeling from this man who is starting to ignore you. and immediately put you back on that train to Glory Town. Then think about the E. The E in men is envision your ideal match. Okay? This is about you getting clarity on what type of man would best serve you and vice versa. Sometimes we need to get outside of our self-centered desires, of what we think we want, because what we want is not always what we need, and start thinking about and envisioning the type of man that you want to be with when you're 90 years old. Looking back and saying, wow, you know, the years that we've spent together up until this point have been amazing because you're this type of person. And think about what type of character traits, what kinds of values. So if you can go deeper and focus on the few variables, the few values and traits that a man might exhibit in his 90s, you'll realize that some of the things that we want and that are important to us today might not be that important when we're in our 90s. Thinking about more of the sustainable things you're looking for in a man will help give you that clarity to then get to N, which is network. Network, network, network. Get out there, meet more people, and try to meet more quality men. And the more that you can focus on getting more exposure to different types of men, the less that you will be dependent or thinking about this other guy who's moving away and ignoring you. And in the end, when you're focusing on meeting other men and living that glorious life, you're going to be more attractive to him in the end. It's just not your priority. All right, now the second situation is maybe he's courting you. Maybe you've just started dating. You've gone on a few dates. Maybe you've even been dating for a month or so. And all of a sudden, something happens. Maybe it's within the first few dates, all of a sudden he just stops calling, or there's just not that same chemistry that you had when you first got together. What's probably happening is you're thinking, what did I do? Did I do something to screw this up? And once again, the opposite of what you want to do. Now is not the time for introspection. Now, if you notice that you were doing something that you're trying to improve on and you don't want to do that anymore, fine. Okay, I'm all for self-improvement and personal development. But if you start asking yourself the question, how did I screw this up? All it's going to do is make you go crazy, feel more insecure, and make the situation more tense and problematic than it already feels like to you. So that's not going to be helpful. And your instinct might be, well, I want to bring this up with him. Like, he's not calling me back. He's not doing or treating me the same way he was before. I need to talk to him about it. We need to have the talk. This is not the point in a relationship where you're ready to have the talk with him. He hasn't earned an opportunity to have the talk until you've been dating for longer. Plus, let's say you do have the talk. He has, if he's not as into you, maybe as you are, if he's not as into the relationship, then he has zero incentive to be honest with you. I can't tell you how many women say, oh, you know, he totally ghosted me and I reached out to him. I wanted to know what happened. Why? Why would you ask him that question? He has zero incentive to tell you the truth. Number one, no incentive. Number two, he might not even know. He might not even have a good reason or understand himself, right? So regardless of what he says to you, it's not even most likely going to be the truth. So what is the point in even extending that conversation? Why even give this guy the time of day and the emotional investment into trying to work through this? You just started dating. This should be unattractive. A real quality man in the beginning is going to pursue. He's going to reciprocate. He's going to be on his best behavior. I remember when I first started dating my wife, Kathy, I think it was after our second date, the next morning, it was early. It was maybe like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. I called her and I said, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. Do you want to go for a walk? And I remember Kathy told me afterward, she thought it was so weird. She's like, I don't understand. I've gone on 2 dates with this guy. I just saw him last night. Why is he calling me again, and why does he want to see me? She thought that I was calling her to break up with her. And she's like, why is he trying to do this in person? Why doesn't he just call me? We've only gone out twice. It was just, she didn't comprehend it. I just wanted to see her again. I was actually living like in the far north suburbs of Chicago, and I was going downtown the next morning to meet up with a friend for coffee really early. And so we didn't stay out that late the night before. And I remember just thinking, well, I'm in the city anyway. I want to see her. I didn't care about playing games or coming off too desperate. I just wanted to hang out with her. I liked her, and I was in the area. That's it. I had no ulterior motives. I was interested. I was interested in reciprocating. I was interested in building a relationship. I wanted a lifelong commitment. Why would I play games or waste time? And if someone else is playing games or wasting time, there is no reason for you to invest in that relationship. In fact, do the opposite. Think about the woman that you admire most in the world. what would she do? She would have a red velvet rope in front of her. What would that look like, to have a red velvet rope saying, my life is valuable and I'm not going to fill it with people that aren't worth my time? You know, looking at really high value people, they don't waste or invest time in people that are not important to them. Time is so valuable. It's the one thing that when we invest in it, we never get it back. You don't need to be wasting time or trying to train some guy on how to treat women. I remember I did this. I went out with a woman. We had been friends for a while, and I remember going out with her, and it was the worst experience ever. It was like we'd been flirting for so long, and then I went out with her, and she completely ignored me on the date and flirted with all of these other guys. I don't know what happened. I really don't. I still to this day don't know. I didn't have a conversation with her about it. I don't know if she was mad at me. I don't know if I did something wrong. I don't know if I smelled bad. I don't know. But all I know is I took her out on a date and I was really excited. I really liked her. And all she did was flirt with other guys. I was so devastated. Really, really liked her. And I didn't pursue her. I didn't try to make it work. When I saw her, because she was friends with my roommate, I didn't try to go out of my way to engage with her. I totally put up the red velvet rope. Even though I didn't want to, I did, and I went about my own life. And I ended up meeting the woman who's now my wife, Kathy. And I remember it was one of our earlier dates. I took Kathy to go to a party that my friend was having, the one that's friends with this girl. And we get there, and she was there. This girl that totally blew me off was there. And I was so excited about my wife. I wasn't trying to make her jealous. I wasn't even thinking about her. I just remember her seeing me and coming over to me and being so inappropriate in front of Kathy, my wife. She was really just trying to flirt with me, really hardcore. And I remember thinking to myself, this is so, this is just how it works, right? I move on with my life and all of a sudden now she likes me. But I remember thinking, wow, I was so upset in the moment, but I'm so glad. It was such a blessing that I did not stay with this woman, because look at how she treated me. She was really inappropriate on that date, and now she's being really inappropriate, hitting on me in front of Kathy, who I brought to this party. It was just a whole bunch of inappropriateness, which goes to show that I didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve to be treated that way, and I didn't want to be with an inappropriate woman, so I'm so glad that it ended up happening that way. So I guess bottom line, a committed man would not play games, would not act that way. Now let's jump into the third situation. If you're in a committed relationship with someone and they're not giving you what you need, they're starting to pull away and distance themselves in the relationship or treat you in a way that is not how they treated you in the beginning of the relationship, what do you do? How do you respond? This is actually quite different than the first two because he has a history. If you are in a relationship with this man, then he must have a history of treating you well, of being caring, considerate, and kind, of aligning with the things that you care about. And this is a new pattern that is emerging. So the first question that I would encourage you to ask instead of, or as an alternative to blaming him, is to ask yourself, is what I am asking for from him, is what I want, is that legitimate? Is that healthy? Or am I maybe placing expectations on my partner that's not a good fit? Now, we might not have the best perspective on this. There's actually a theory of relationship connection called attachment theory, and it's based on how we formed attachments from our childhood. There's 3 different types of attachment styles. There's one form which is anxious attachment, another which is secure attachment, and a third which is avoidant. So anxious, secure, and avoidant. Now, a secure attached person will be able to deeply connect and be intimate with their partner, and they will also be able to be disconnected from their partner, meaning not that same level of connectedness, and still feel safe, still feel like the connection is solid. If there's an avoidant personality in the relationship and there's too much closeness and too much intimacy and connection, they may feel a little bit smothered or like it's a little bit too much and they need space. They need to avoid and go and get some alone time. It's too much for them. And then there's anxious, and anxious really, really needs that deep, fulfilling, intense, passionate connection. And Oftentimes they get that. They're really good at getting that in the beginning. But then if that becomes too much, because quite frankly it's not sustainable, and their partner starts to pull away a little bit, it might be healthy that they don't stay in this deep, 10 out of 10 state of intensity. It's just that's not sustainable. And so this might be a healthy thing, but the anxious person feels like that connection is slipping. And if they don't have that connection, that their relationship is doomed. So a good thing to do is, you can read books on this, but I would encourage you to talk with some friends. Share with them what's been going on in your relationship. Try to be as objective as possible. Go to people that you really respect their opinion, that you look up to and admire, and see what their perspective is. Hopefully they'll be really honest with you. I don't know. I don't know your situation. This is just something that I encourage you to consider before you launch into an accusation or drama with your partner. Now, if you're sure that this is something that's important to you, that you need, that you're not asking for too much, then I would encourage you as a next step to talk to your partner. This is not something that should be ignored, and quite frankly, if you're looking for a lifelong committed relationship, there should be no fear of being able to speak openly with your partner. Wouldn't you want to be with someone who wants to know how you're feeling and how you're doing in the relationship and wants to be able to give you what you want? A relationship only works when two people are working at it and want the other person to be happy and feel fulfilled. So if you talking to him is going to be so polarizing and upsetting that he's unwilling to do it, then you really need to ask yourself, is this the kind of partner that I'm meant to be with? But if he is willing to have that conversation, this is really important. I encourage you to use I statements, because once you start accusing another person of doing certain things, criticizing them, it creates an immediate defensiveness. And on top of that, regardless of your own expectations and boundaries, you can't force anyone to do anything. So instead, if you can get in the habit of using I statements, it's very difficult to argue with someone. If someone approaches you and said, you did this, yada, 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 that wasn't nice, I don't like it, criticize, 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 it's so easy for you to be defensive, say, whoa, wait a second. First of all, I didn't do that. Second of all, I did this because, and you're justifying. But if someone says to you, I experienced this. This is what I experienced. Okay, this is how I felt. And it was really hurtful for me. And I would appreciate this to happen, or this. Then you have a conversation. Then someone can say, well, wait a second. Why did you feel that way? This was my intent. There's miscommunication. It opens the door to let you have a better dialogue rather than accusing and putting someone on the defensive. And at the end of the day, if you're using I statements, if you're being compassionate, if you're just stating your needs, you're being helpful. You're trying to help your partner to let you know what you need in a relationship. And ultimately, if your partner doesn't have the desire or willingness to try to change or to try to meet your needs, then what are you doing? What are you getting out of a relationship when you're in a relationship with someone who's not willing or doesn't have the desire to give you what you need? You deserve someone who cares for you and who wants to give you everything that you need. Ultimately, we are the ones that place ourselves in a position to be hurt, period. And if we are staying with someone who refuses to reciprocate in a relationship, refuses to acknowledge their side of it, we can only do so much. We can only give what we can give, but ultimately it needs reciprocation. Now, if you feel like maybe there's been a lot of arguing or the relationship has been rocky for a little bit, instead of looking for all of the things that they're doing wrong, if you want to break that pattern, I would focus on accepting responsibility to bring as much love and gratitude and giving into the relationship as you can, even if they're not modeling that behavior themselves. If you can just go through a spurt of consistent giving and love, that is a great way to change the dynamic in a relationship, is to lead by example rather than pointing and blaming and hoping that they will change. It's that saying, be the change that you want in the relationship. And listen, I can go so deep into relationships and I can't do it all in one video. You can get access to my brand new free training. Check out the link in the description. You get instant access. I give away some of my best attraction and dating information. It's a really great training. Check that out. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. I would love to have you as a subscriber. I mean, today alone in this video, we went through what to do if you're just starting to meet a guy, if you're just started dating, and again, if you're in a committed relationship, you now have different strategies to follow through with and to utilize. I hope you found some of it helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments section. I love interacting with you, and I appreciate you taking the time to be here. All right, take good care, and I'll see you next video.